Captain Quan Li stood on the bridge of the Harmony, watching the massive space station grow larger on the view screen. His heart beat fast. After 200 years of dreaming, humanity was finally meeting aliens. Real aliens. The station called. Nexus Prime floated in the darkness like a giant metal flower. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it like bees around a hive. "Captain, we're receiving docking instructions," said the communications officer. Her voice shook slightly. Everyone on the bridge felt the same nervous excitement. Quan nodded. "Follow their guidance. Let's make a good first impression." Beside him, Dr. Bora Kim adjusted her uniform for the 10th time. She was Earth's best expert on alien cultures, though until 3 months ago she had only studied theories. Now she would meet 847 different species face to face. "Try to relax," Quan whispered to her. Bora laughed quietly. "Easy for you to say. You just fly the ship. I have to make sure we don't accidentally insult anyone." The Harmony docked smoothly. Quan, Bora, and Ambassador Haiwan Choi stepped off their ship and into a new world. The station's interior was breathtaking. Aliens of every size and color walked through the corridors. Some had 4 legs, others floated in the air. One creature looked like living water held together by force fields. Ambassador Haiwan walked in front. She was a small woman with gray hair and steel in her eyes. She had spent 40 years in Earth's diplomatic service. This would be her greatest challenge. A tall alien approached them. Its body looked like purple crystal that glowed from within. When it spoke, the words came from a device around what might have been its neck. "I am Veximar, lead counselor of the Galactic Consortium. Welcome to Nexus Prime." The voice was cold and formal. "Thank you for receiving us," Haiwan said, bowing slightly. "Earth is honored to join the galactic community." Veximar's crystals dimmed. "Join? That remains to be seen. Follow me." The 3 humans exchanged worried glances. This was not the warm welcome they expected. The council chamber was enormous. Thousands of aliens sat in curved rows that went up to the ceiling. The humans felt very small as they stood in the center. Lights focused on them like they were on trial. Veximar took its place at the highest point. Its voice boomed through the chamber. "Representatives of Earth, you stand before the consortium to answer for your species' crimes." Quan felt his stomach drop. "Crimes? We just developed faster than light travel. We haven't committed any crimes." "Your ignorance does not excuse your actions," another alien spoke. This one looked like a large insect with too many eyes. "For over 100 years, your species has violated the silent protocol." Bora stepped forward. "We don't know what that is. Please explain." Veximar's crystals pulsed with what might have been anger. "The silent protocol is the oldest law in the galaxy. All pre-FTL civilizations must remain undetected. They must not broadcast signals into space. They must not announce their presence. This law protects young species from threats they cannot understand." "But we didn't know," Haiwan said. "How could we follow a law we never heard of?" "That is the point," Veximar's voice rose. "Advanced civilizations stay quiet because they learn the dangers. Your species broadcast radio signals, television, radar. You screamed into the void for a century. You drew attention to yourselves and to this entire region of space." Quan felt anger rise in his chest. "You're punishing us for not knowing rules you never told us?" "Worse than that," the insect alien said. "We have reviewed your history. Your species is violent. You wage wars over resources, ideas, even skin color. You create weapons that can destroy your own planet. The consortium has seen species like yours before. You are dangerous." Bora's scientific mind kicked in despite her fear. "Every species has a violent past. Surely you evolved from predators too." "Many of us did," Veximar admitted. "But we learned peace before we reached the stars. You did not. You brought your weapons with you. Your ship carries nuclear missiles. Your planet has enough weapons to kill your population 10 times over." "Those are for defense," Quan protested. "Defense against what?" Veximar asked. "There was nothing to defend against. Until now, you were alone. Yet still you armed yourselves to the teeth. This shows your true nature. The chamber filled with sounds. Thousands of aliens spoke in their own languages. The translation devices created a wall of noise. Most of it sounded angry or afraid. Vexamar raised an appendage, and the chamber went silent. The Council has made its decision. Earth and its solar system are declared a contamination risk. As of this moment, you are under immediate quarantine. What does that mean? Haiwan demanded. It means you will be isolated. A barrier will surround your entire solar system. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out. You will remain there until the Council decides humanity has learned to be peaceful. Given your history, that may take thousands of years. You can't do this, Quan shouted. We came in peace. You came armed. Vexamar said simply. The quarantine begins now. You have 1 hour to return to your ship and leave the station. Guards will escort you. Large robots appeared from the walls. They did not touch the humans, but they made it clear that arguing was pointless. As the guards led them away, Bora managed to access a data terminal. Her fingers flew across the controls. She downloaded everything she could about the consortium's history, their laws, their technology. Maybe somewhere in this data was a way to fix this. The humans ran back to the Harmony. The docking clamps released before they even reached the bridge. Get us out of here, Quan yelled. Maximum speed toward Earth. The ship jumped to FTL, racing toward home. Behind them, they could see it beginning. Massive ships appeared around Nexus Prime. They moved into position, forming a perfect sphere that stretched outward. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy readings, the science officer said. Something is forming at the edge of our solar system. Show me, Quan ordered. The view screen changed. Far away, at the outer edge of their solar system, reality itself seemed to shimmer. A wall of pure energy began to take shape. It grew and spread, wrapping around their entire system like a cage. The Harmony raced against time. They could see Earth ahead, beautiful and blue. Behind them, the barrier grew closer. We're not going to make it, the pilot said. Keep going, Quan ordered. The barrier rushed toward them. The ship shook as it crossed into their solar system. Seconds later, the barrier sealed shut behind them. Every communication channel went dead. Every connection to the galaxy vanished. Earth and its solar system were alone. Completely and totally alone. Quan looked at the blank screens. Humanity had reached for the stars and been slapped down. They were prisoners in their own home. What do we do now? Bora whispered. Quan had no answer. Back on Earth, Admiral Sung-Ho Park would be receiving the news. 7 billion people would soon learn they were trapped. The dream of joining the galaxy had become a nightmare. The Harmony limped toward Earth, carrying the worst news in human history. 3 days had passed since the barrier went up. Earth was in chaos. Admiral Sung-Ho Park sat in the war room deep under Geneva, watching screens filled with bad news. Riots had broken out in 30 cities. People were scared. Some were angry. Many were both. The world leaders argued over video calls, each blaming the others for humanity's failure. Sung-Ho rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept since the Harmony returned. His daughter Yu-Jin had called him crying, asking if they would die trapped in their own solar system. He had no good answer for her. Sir, Dr. Kim is ready to present her findings, an aide said. Sung-Ho nodded. Put her on the main screen. Bora's face appeared. She looked as tired as he felt. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but they burned with intensity. Admiral, I found something in the data I downloaded from Nexus Prime. Something they tried to delete but didn't quite finish. Go on, Sung-Ho said, leaning forward. References to ancient human installations. Multiple files mentioned them. Then those mentions were removed. But nothing ever fully disappears from a database. I found fragments. What kind of installations? I don't know yet. But the consortium knows something about humanity's past that they're hiding, something that scared them enough to erase it. Bora paused. I think that's why they really quarantined us. Not because we're violent, because they know something we don't. Sung-Ho felt a chill run down his spine. Keep digging. If there's a way out of this mess, we need to find it. He switched channels. Commander Song, status report from Ganymede. Commander Gina Song appeared on screen. She stood in the command center of the Jupiter Research Station on Ganymede, Jupiter's largest moon. Behind her, technicians rushed around looking worried. Admiral, we have a serious situation, Gina said. Her voice was calm, but her hands gripped the console. 3 hours ago, our sensors detected massive energy fluctuations from Jupiter itself. What kind of fluctuations? Like nothing we've ever seen. At first, we thought it was the barrier affecting our instruments. But the readings are coming from deep inside Jupiter, from the core region. That's impossible, Sung-Ho said. Jupiter is a gas giant. It doesn't have a solid core that could generate energy signatures. That's what we thought too, sir. That's why I'm sending Dr. Huang down to investigate. Dr. Taemin Huang appeared in the frame. He was young for a lead physicist, only 32, with messy hair that he forgot to comb. But his mind was brilliant. Admiral, I need to take a deep atmospheric probe down there, Taemin said. Something is happening inside Jupiter. Something that defies everything we know about planetary formation. Approved, Sung-Ho said immediately. If there's any chance this is related to our situation, we need to know. 6 hours later, Taemin sat in the probe ship with veteran astronaut Dae Jung-yoon at the controls. Dae Jung had been flying for 30 years and had seen everything. Or so he thought. Beginning descent into Jupiter's upper atmosphere, Dae Jung reported. His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. The ship shook as it entered the swirling clouds. Colors flashed past the windows. Reds and browns mixed with white and gold. The pressure readings climbed steadily. Taemin watched his sensors. I'm picking up the energy signature. It's getting stronger. Bearing 270, depth approximately 1,500 kilometers. That's deep, Dae Jung muttered. The pressure there would crush a normal ship. Good thing this isn't a normal ship, Taemin said with a nervous smile. They dropped deeper. The clouds grew thicker, darker. The ship's hull groaned under the pressure. Then suddenly they broke through into a clear area. Both men gasped. In front of them, lit by its own internal glow, was a structure. It was massive, geometric, impossible. Metal beams stretched for kilometers, forming patterns that hurt to look at. Lights pulsed along surfaces that should not exist inside a gas giant. What is that? Dae Jung whispered. Taemin's fingers flew over his console. I'm reading artificial gravity fields. Power generation on a scale that makes fusion reactors look like candles. This structure is active, or at least it's waking up. But who built it when? I don't know, but look at this. Taemin pointed at his screen. The structure is responding to us, to our biosignatures, to human DNA. As if hearing him, lights began turning on throughout the structure. One by one, section by section, the massive installation came to life. The glow grew brighter, filling the darkness inside Jupiter with cold blue light. We need to get closer, Taemin said. Are you insane? Dae Jung asked. We don't know what that thing is. Exactly. That's why we need to get closer. Dae Jung sighed but moved the ship forward. They approached the structure carefully. As they got near, panels opened in the metal surface. A docking port extended toward them. It's inviting us in, Taemin said. Or it's a trap, Dae Jung countered. Only one way to find out. They docked. The ship settled into place with a gentle thud. Through the windows, they could see a corridor leading into the structure. It was lit and, according to the sensors, had breathable air. That's impossible, Dae Jung said. Nothing from Earth could survive down here. The heat and pressure would destroy it in seconds. Unless it's not from Earth, Taemin said quietly. At least not from modern Earth. They put on their suits anyway and opened the airlock. The air that rushed in was clean and fresh. The gravity felt normal. Temperature was a comfortable 20 degrees. Inside Jupiter's crushing depths, someone had created a perfect environment for humans. The corridor walls were covered in symbols. Taemin ran his hand over them, his mind racing. These markings, I've seen something like them before. In museums. Proto-human languages. Cuneiform. Egyptian hieroglyphs. But older. Much older. They walked deeper into the structure. The corridor opened into a massive chamber. In the center stood a holographic projector. As they entered, it activated images filled the air. They saw Earth, but not modern Earth. This was Earth tens of thousands of years ago. They saw humans, but these humans wore advanced armor and flew ships between the stars. They built cities that floated in space. They spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Then came the war. Something terrible attacked. Creatures that looked wrong, like reality itself was breaking around them. The ancient humans fought back with weapons that split planets, but they were losing. The hologram showed a final, desperate act. The ancient humans gathered their greatest minds. They built something. Defense systems hidden inside planets disguised as natural formations. Then they did the unthinkable. They erased themselves, shut down their civilization, destroyed their own records, reduced themselves back to primitive tribes. To survive, humanity had to forget everything. The hologram showed Jupiter transforming. What had been a normal planet was converted into something else. A weapon platform. A guardian. It would sleep until humanity needed it again. The hologram faded. A final message appeared in symbols that somehow, impossibly, both men could understand. When the stars turn against you, Jupiter will awaken. When you are trapped and alone, remember you were never weak. You only chose to sleep. Taemin and Daejung stood in silence, trying to process what they had seen. "We need to tell the Admiral," Daejung finally said. "We need to tell everyone," Taemin corrected. "Humanity isn't some young species that stumbled into space. We were here first. We built this galaxy's first empire, and we left ourselves a way to defend our home." They rushed back to the ship. As they launched, Taemin looked back at the structure. More lights were turning on. The awakening had begun. On Ganymede, Gina received their transmission. She listened in growing shock as Taemin explained what they found. Then she looked out the window at Jupiter. The planet was changing. The swirling clouds were moving in patterns that looked almost deliberate. Energy readings were off the scale. Whatever was hidden inside Jupiter, it was waking up after sleeping for millennia. And outside their solar system, just beyond the barrier, the Galactic Consortium had no idea what was coming. The news spread across Earth like lightning. Every television, every computer, every phone showed the same images. The ancient holograms from inside Jupiter, proof that humanity had once ruled the stars. Professor Misun Beck sat in her office at Seoul National University, surrounded by books about ancient history. For 40 years, she had studied the origins of human civilization. Now everything she knew was wrong, or rather incomplete. Her phone rang. It was Admiral Sung-ho. "Professor Beck, I need you on the next shuttle to Ganymede. We need someone who can read these ancient symbols." "Admiral, I study human history. This is beyond anything in our records. That's exactly why we need you. Someone wrote those symbols, someone who was human. Help us understand what they're trying to tell us." 3 days later, Misun floated through the corridors of the Jupiter Research Station. She had never been in space before. At 63, she thought she was too old for this. But when she saw the hologram recordings, everything else stopped mattering. Taemin met her in the research lab. The walls were covered with images of the symbols from inside Jupiter. "Professor, thank you for coming," he said. "We've cataloged over 10,000 unique symbols. Some match ancient Earth languages. Others are completely unknown." Misun approached the wall slowly. Her fingers traced the symbols. "These here, they're like Proto-Sumerian, but older. And these patterns match stone carvings found in South Africa, dated to 70,000 years ago. We thought they were just decorative. But if your hologram is correct, they were leaving messages for us," Taemin finished. "Instructions, warnings, stories." Over the next week, Misun worked without stopping. She barely ate or slept. The truth was too important. Slowly, painfully, she began to piece together humanity's real history. Humans had not evolved on Earth. At least, not only on Earth. Ancient humans had seeded life across hundreds of worlds. Earth was special because it was the homeworld, the origin point. But humanity had spread far and wide, adapting to different planets, becoming the galaxy's first great civilization. They called themselves the First Expansion. For 10,000 years, they explored and built and grew. They met no other intelligent life. They were alone in a vast empty galaxy, so they decided to create life. They uplifted primitive species on dozens of worlds, helping them evolve faster, teaching them to think and dream. But then the Void Swarm came. Creatures from another dimension, another reality. They fed on consciousness itself. They attacked any world with intelligent life. The First Expansion fought back with weapons that bent physics. The war lasted 300 years. Humanity was winning. But the cost was terrible. Billions died. Entire worlds burned. The ancient humans realized something horrible. Their uplifted children, the species they had helped create, were becoming casualties in a war they didn't start. So the first expansion made a choice. They would hide. They built defense systems and disguised them as natural planets. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune in the Sol system. Similar installations in other systems where humans lived. Then they activated the long sleep protocol. All advanced technology was shut down. All records were erased. Humans voluntarily returned to primitive life on Earth and a few other worlds. They made themselves invisible to the void swarm. The other uplifted species survived and eventually formed the Galactic Consortium, never knowing who had helped them evolve. The plan was to sleep for 50,000 years, then wake up when the void swarm had moved on or died out. But something went wrong. The wake-up signal never came. Humans stayed primitive. They forgot everything. They built civilization again from scratch, thinking they were the first. Until now. Mi-sun presented her findings to Admiral Sung-ho via video link. He sat in the war room with General Hun Suan and other military leaders. So the consortium species, we created them? Hyun-soo asked. His weathered face showed shock. Not directly, Mi-sun explained. But we accelerated their evolution, gave them the push they needed to develop intelligence. They're our children, in a way, and now they've locked us in a cage. The irony is painful, Sung-ho said. Do they know? The consortium erased the records, but I think their leaders know. Or at least suspect. That's why they're so afraid of us. They know we're older than them. On Ganymede, Gina coordinated teams exploring the Jupiter structure. They had sent hundreds of people down now. The installation was enormous, larger than some countries. It had living quarters, weapon systems, factories, reactors, everything needed to defend the solar system, but it needed human operators. The systems responded to human DNA, human brainwaves. It was built by humans for humans. Taemin stood in the control center, a vast room filled with consoles that hummed with power. Yoojin Park worked beside him. She was Admiral Sung-ho's daughter, only 25, but brilliant with engineering. She had volunteered immediately when they called for people to interface with the ancient systems. The main computer is asking for operators, Yoojin said, her hands moving over the strange controls. It wants to link with human minds directly. Is it safe? Taemin asked. According to the system diagnostics, yes. It's designed for this. But someone has to go first. I'll do it, Gina said, entering the room. She had been listening from the doorway. Commander, we don't know what will happen, Taemin protested. Exactly. That's why it should be me. If something goes wrong, we can't afford to lose our best scientists. She sat in the main chair. It adjusted itself to fit her body. Besides, I'm curious. Yoojin attached neural sensors to Gina's head. Lights on the sensors turned green. You're connected? The system is reading your brain patterns. Gina closed her eyes. Suddenly she was everywhere. She could feel Jupiter, feel the vast structure hidden inside it. She could sense every system, every weapon, every power conduit. Information flooded her mind. How to aim the weapons, how to generate shields, how to convert matter into energy, and she felt more. Saturn was stirring. Uranus was waking. Neptune was starting to power up. All across the solar system, hidden installations were responding to human presence. How do you feel? Taemin asked nervously. Gina opened her eyes. They glowed faintly blue for a moment before returning to normal. I feel powerful, and I understand now. These aren't just weapons. They're guardians. They're loyal. They've been waiting for us to come back. Over the next few days, more humans linked with the systems. Each one added their consciousness to the network. Together, they began bringing Jupiter to full power. The planet itself started to change. The thick clouds began to thin. The rotation slowed, then stopped. The gravity field stabilized. Slowly, incredibly, Jupiter's outer layers peeled away like a flower opening. They dispersed into space, revealing the truth beneath. Jupiter had never been a gas giant. It had been wearing the gas as camouflage. Underneath was a perfect sphere of dark metal, 3 times the size of Earth. Its surface was covered in geometric patterns that glowed with blue light. Weapons ports opened like eyes. Energy generators hummed to life. The moon stayed in orbit, held by artificial gravity. The platform generated its own gravitational field, perfect and controlled. People across Earth looked through telescopes and saw it. Jupiter had transformed. The images went viral. Fear turned to hope. Humanity had been given a gift from their ancestors, but outside the barrier, the Galactic Consortium saw it too. On Nexus Prime, alarms blared. Veximar watched the sensor readings with what might have been fear in a crystalline being. "What are they doing?" another counselor asked. "What is that thing?" "I don't know," Veximar admitted. "But I'm reading power signatures that shouldn't be possible. That platform generates more energy than our entire fleet. Should we attack?" "No, not yet. We need to understand what we're dealing with." But not everyone agreed. In the military sectors of the consortium, warships began to gather. Admirals and generals watched the barrier and made plans. Some species in the consortium believed in peace. Others believed in strength. And right now, humanity looked very strong. Inside the solar system, Admiral Sung Ho received reports of ship movements outside the barrier. "They're getting ready to attack," Hyunsu said. "Then we get ready to defend," Sung Ho replied. "For 50,000 years our ancestors protected us while we slept. Now it's our turn to be worthy of their sacrifice." On Jupiter platform, Gina sat in the command chair, her mind linked to systems that could split moons. Around her, hundreds of humans worked at consoles, learning ancient weapons from instinct and buried memory. The awakening was complete. Humanity remembered who they were, and the galaxy was about to remember too. 2 weeks after Jupiter awakened, the consortium fleet arrived. 2,000 warships arranged themselves in perfect formation outside the barrier. Each ship was kilometers long, armed with weapons that could burn continents. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. On the Harmony, Captain Kwan watched the fleet through the view screen. Bora stood beside him, her face pale. "That's a lot of ships," she whispered. "Admiral Sung Ho is asking for us at the war room," Kwan said. "We should go." They took a shuttle to the underground command center in Geneva. The war room was crowded with military officers and world leaders. Screens showed the consortium fleet from every angle. Numbers scrolled past, calculating weapons, shields, and probable battle outcomes. None of the predictions were good. Admiral Sung Ho stood at the main console. He looked older than he had 2 weeks ago. His hair had gone almost completely gray. But his eyes were still sharp. "The consortium is hailing us," he announced. "Ambassador Choi, you're with me." Haewon stepped forward. Together they accepted the transmission. Veximar's crystalline face appeared on the screen. "Admiral Sung Ho, Ambassador Choi. The Galactic Consortium demands the immediate surrender of the illegal weapon system you have activated." Sung Ho kept his voice calm. "Jupiter platform is not illegal. It was built by our ancestors to protect our home. We have every right to use it. Your ancestors violated the fundamental laws of nature by building such a thing," Veximar said. "No species should possess weapons of that magnitude. They are too dangerous." "You brought 2,000 warships to our door," Haewon pointed out. "And you lecture us about danger?" "We brought sufficient force to contain a threat. You must see reason. Power down your platform and submit to permanent quarantine. If you comply, no one needs to be hurt." "And if we refuse?" Sung Ho asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then we will be forced to neutralize the threat, one way or another." The transmission ended. The room erupted in worried voices. Generals argued about tactics. Politicians demanded negotiations. Scientists calculated survival odds. Sung Ho held up his hand for silence. "Commander Song, status report from Jupiter platform." Gina's face appeared on another screen. She sat in the command chair, neural sensors glowing on her temples. "We're at 40% operational capacity, Admiral. Saturn is at 20%. Uranus and Neptune are just beginning activation sequences. We need more time." "Time is something we don't have," General Hyun-soo said grimly. "That fleet could attack at any moment." "Then we buy time," Kwan said. Everyone turned to look at him. "We show them what Jupiter can do. Not an attack. A demonstration. Make them think twice about starting a fight." On Ganymede, Taemin worked frantically with Yujin at the weapons console. They had been studying the platform's systems non-stop. "I think I understand how the main weapon works," Taemin said. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. "It doesn't fire energy. It fires compressed exotic matter. Stuff that doesn't normally exist in our dimension. It can pass through shields like they're not even there." "Can we fire it safely?" Yujin asked. "I think so. But we should probably aim at something far away. Something uninhabited." Admiral Sung Ho gave the order. "Fire a warning shot. Show the consortium we're serious." Gina closed her eyes and connected deeper with the platform. She felt the weapon systems respond to her thoughts. She selected a target from the navigation database. An empty moon 40 light-years away. Nothing lived there. Nothing would be harmed. The Jupiter platform hummed. Energy gathered at its poles. Space itself seemed to bend around the building power. Then with a sound like reality tearing, the weapon fired. A beam of blue-white light shot from Jupiter. It didn't travel. It simply appeared at the target location instantly. The moon 40 light-years away exploded. Not just destroyed. It ceased to exist. The exotic matter unmated at the atomic level. One moment there was a moon. The next moment there was nothing. Not debris, not dust. Just empty space. The entire event took 3 seconds. On the consortium flagship, sensors went crazy. Officers shouted in alarm. Veximar stared at the readings, unable to process what had just happened. That's impossible, the tactical officer said. That much power. It violates every law of physics we know. They hit a target 40 light-years away, another officer added. Instantly. No travel time. No warning. Fall back, Veximar ordered. Retreat to 50,000 kilometers. The consortium fleet pulled away from the barrier. Fear had replaced arrogance. Veximar opened a channel to Earth again. This time the crystalline being's glow was dimmer. How did you obtain such technology? Quan stepped forward before Sung-Ho could speak. We didn't obtain it. We built it. Thousands of years ago, long before the consortium existed. That's a lie. The consortium is the oldest civilization in the galaxy. Is it? Bora joined the conversation. She held up a datapad. Because I have your own records that say otherwise. Records you tried to delete. They talk about the first expansion. About ancient humans who seeded life across the galaxy. About how the consortium species were helped to evolve by someone older. Veximar was silent for a long moment. You can't prove that, can I? Bora touched her pad. Suddenly she was broadcasting. Not just to the consortium flagship. To every ship in the fleet. To Nexus Prime. To billions of aliens across thousands of worlds. She showed them the holograms from Jupiter. The history of the first expansion. The truth about humanity's past. The consortium network exploded with activity. Species demanded answers from their leaders. Politicians tried to deny it. Scientists examined the evidence. Within hours, the entire galactic civilization was in chaos. Some species believed the evidence. They remembered old stories, myths about beings who came from the stars and taught them to build and dream. Now those myths had names, humans, but others refused to believe. They called it propaganda. They said humans were dangerous liars who needed to be contained or destroyed. The consortium split. Some wanted peace with Earth, others wanted war. The unity that had held 847 species together began to crack. On Nexus Prime, the council dissolved into arguments. Veximar tried to maintain order but failed. Other councilors demanded military action. Some species pulled their ships back from the fleet. Others sent more ships to join it. Then a new fleet arrived. This one was different. 3 times larger than the first. 5,000 warships from the consortium's military hardliners. Species who believed strength was the only thing that mattered. Leading them was War Marshal Krenthax. He was from a species called the Vranics, massive creatures covered in armor like scales. Krenthax had fought in every major war for 200 years. He had never lost a battle. His voice boomed across all channels. This is War Marshal Krenthax of the Consortium Military Command. I am assuming control of this situation. Humans of Earth, you have 24 hours to surrender. Power down your weapon systems and submit to Consortium authority. If you refuse, we will destroy your solar system and everyone in it. He cut the transmission before anyone could respond. In the war room, silence fell. 5,000 ships. Even with Jupiter platform, those were terrible odds. Can we fight that many? Hyunsu asked quietly. Taemin looked at his calculations. Maybe. Jupiter is at 40% power. Saturn is coming online faster than expected. If we had all 4 platforms at full capacity, I'd say yes. As it is. He shrugged helplessly. There has to be another way, Haewon said. Yujin suddenly looked up from her console. Admiral, I found something in Jupiter's database. A protocol called Omega Directive. It's a master command that would reactivate all ancient human defense platforms across the entire galaxy. How many platforms? Sung-Ho asked. According to this, thousands. Hidden inside planets in every system where humans once lived. If we activate them all, we could restart the first expansion, reclaim our old territory, and restart the ancient war, Misun said via video link from Ganymede. Professor, you studied the history. The Omega Directive was supposed to be the last resort. Using it means war on a galactic scale. Sung Ho closed his eyes. In 24 hours, he would have to make a choice. Surrender and lose humanity's freedom, fight and probably die, or activate Omega Directive and potentially kill trillions of aliens who had nothing to do with this. We need a third option, he said. Quan stepped forward. What if we don't surrender but we don't attack either? What if we show them we're strong enough to defend ourselves, but wise enough not to abuse that power? You're talking about fighting a defensive battle against 5,000 ships, Hyunsu said. We'd have to stop them without destroying them. That's almost impossible. Almost, Quan agreed, but not completely. He looked at the countdown clock on the screen. 24 hours until Krenthax's deadline. 24 hours to prepare, let's make it count, Sung Ho said. The countdown reached 0. Krenthax's deadline had arrived. Inside the solar system, Earth held its breath. Cities that had been rioting were now silent. People gathered in homes and shelters, watching the sky. Some prayed. Others simply waited. Everyone knew what was coming. On Jupiter platform, Gina sat in the command chair surrounded by 200 human operators. All of them were connected to the ancient systems through neural links. Their minds worked together, becoming one with the weapons their ancestors had built. Saturn platform is now at 70%, Yujin reported from her console. Uranus is at 50%. Neptune is at 30%. Not enough, Taman muttered. We needed more time. We work with what we have, Gina said calmly. Despite the pressure, she felt strangely peaceful. The platform's systems flowed through her thoughts like water. She knew exactly what it could do. Admiral Sung Ho, we're ready. In Geneva's war room, Sung Ho looked around at the faces watching him. General Hyunsu, Ambassador Haewon, Captain Quan, Bora. His daughter Yujin on the video screen from Ganymede, Professor Misun, all the people who had brought them to this moment. Send the message, he ordered. Haewon opened a channel to Krenthax. War Marshal, Earth refuses your ultimatum. We will not surrender. We will not power down our defenses, but we don't want war. Please, let's find another way. Krenthax's laugh was harsh. There is no other way. You have made your choice. Now face the consequences. The consortium fleet moved forward. 5,000 warships advancing on the barrier, their weapons charged, their shields activated. They came in perfect formation, a wall of metal and death. They're preparing to breach the barrier, Taman said. Let them, Gina replied. Once they're inside, we can engage. The fleet fired concentrated antimatter beams at the barrier. The energy wall flickered and weakened. Alarm sounded across every human installation. Then, with a sound like thunder, the barrier broke. The consortium fleet poured into the solar system. All platforms engage, Sung Ho ordered. Jupiter platform moved first. Despite its enormous size, it could maneuver with impossible grace. The planet-sized weapon system positioned itself between Earth and the attacking fleet. Weapon ports opened across its surface like eyes blinking awake. Saturn platform joined it, moving from behind Titan. Uranus and Neptune came from the outer system. 4 ancient guardians standing against 5,000 warships. Remember, Quan transmitted to all human operators. We disable, we don't destroy. Target their engines and weapons only. The battle began. Krenthax's fleet fired first. Thousands of missiles and energy beams filled space with light. The attack would have been enough to burn a dozen planets. But the platforms didn't use shields. They used gravity. Gina felt the controls respond to her thoughts. Jupiter platform generated gravity wells that bent the incoming fire away. Missiles curved around the platform and exploded harmlessly in empty space. Energy beams curved and missed their targets completely. Return fire, Gina said softly. Jupiter's weapons activated, but these weren't the planet-killing beams they had demonstrated before. These were precision strikes, thin lances of energy that hit consortium ships exactly where the humans wanted. Engine compartments, weapon batteries, shield generators. Explosions rippled through the enemy fleet, but they were controlled explosions. Ships went dark and drifted, disabled but intact. Crews were safe. Life support remained active. They're not trying to kill us, Krenthax realized with shock. They're just taking out our weapons. Should we retreat? His second-in-command asked. No! All ships, press the attack! The fleet surged forward, but the platforms were ready. Saturn demonstrated a different weapon system. It fired pulses that phased through shields completely. Ship's computers shut down. Weapons went offline. The vessels became floating metal shells. Uranus used something stranger, temporal disruption fields. Ships caught in the fields moved in slow motion while everything else moved normally. They became sitting ducks for precision shots that disabled them without destruction. Neptune fired missiles that split into thousands of micro-drones. The drones swarmed disabled ships and attached to their hulls. They didn't explode. Instead, they formed repair matrices, keeping damaged ships stable and preventing casualties. The battle raged for 3 hours. To the consortium crews, it felt like fighting ghosts. The platforms moved in ways that violated physics. They anticipated every attack. They countered every strategy. And they did it all without killing. Krenthax watched in disbelief as 60% of his fleet went dark. Disabled, not destroyed. His crews were safe but unable to fight. "What kind of warriors do this?" he muttered. "They could kill us all, but they're just stopping us." On the Harmony, Quan piloted his ship between the platforms and the consortium fleet. Bora worked communications, trying to reach anyone in the enemy fleet who would listen. "This is Dr. Bora Kim of Earth," she broadcast. "Please hear what I'm saying. We don't want to be your enemy. Our ancestors created weapons like this, but they never wanted to use them for conquest. We're showing you we can defend ourselves. Now please, let's talk peace." Some consortium ships hesitated. Their captains wondered if continuing the fight made sense. Others, loyal to Krenthax, pressed forward. One of those ships fired directly at the Harmony. Quan tried to evade but wasn't fast enough. The missile was seconds from impact when Jupiter platform intervened. A gravity well caught the missile and crushed it into a tiny point of matter, no bigger than a grain of sand. "Thanks for the save," Quan transmitted to Gina. "Anytime, Captain," she replied. But the consortium had tricks too. A group of ships broke away from the main fleet and headed toward Mars. They were going to attack the colonies there. 700,000 people lived on Mars. They were defenseless. "I can't reach them in time," Gina said with frustration in her voice. "I can," Eugen said. She sat at her console on Ganymede, her hands moving faster than thought. Ganymede has old defensive installations too. Smaller ones, but they're active. I'm bringing them online now. Hidden weapons on several of Jupiter's moons activated. They fired interceptor drones that caught the consortium ships before they reached Mars. The drones attached to the ship's engines and shut them down gently. Back at Nexus Prime, Veximar watched the battle through long-range sensors. The crystalline being had been transmitting everything to the Consortium Council. Now the Council was in chaos. "They're not fighting to kill," one counselor observed. "They're fighting to protect. And to prove a point," another added. "They could destroy our fleet, but they're choosing not to." Veximar made a decision. The hardliners under Krenthax had taken control of this situation by force. Perhaps it was time to take it back. "Send the transmission," Veximar ordered. Across the consortium networks, a message went out. Not from Krenthax. From Veximar and the moderate counselors. They broadcast everything. The full history of the first expansion. Evidence that humanity had created the technology that helped other species evolve. Proof that humans had given up their empire voluntarily to let others thrive, and now, current footage showing humans fighting a defensive battle while carefully preserving enemy lives. The galactic networks exploded. Species from 800 worlds watched humans fight with one hand and offer peace with the other. Public opinion shifted like a tide. On the flagship, Krenthax received urgent messages. His government was pulling support. His crews were refusing orders. The political situation had collapsed. "All ships, cease fire," he finally ordered. Cease fire. The battle stopped. The solar system fell silent except for the hum of the platforms. Disabled ships drifted in space, their crews alive and watching. Krenthax opened a channel to Earth. I need to speak with your leaders." In the war room, Sung Ho accepted the call. Krenthax's massive scaled face filled the screen. The war marshal looked tired and confused. "You could have killed us all," Krenthax said quietly. "Why didn't you?" "Because we didn't want to," Sung Ho replied simply. "We just wanted to live in peace. You forced us to show our strength, so we did. But strength isn't about how much you can destroy. It's about how much you can protect." "I have fought for 200 years, Krenthax said. "I have never met warriors like you. You fight not to win, but to end the fighting. Haywan stepped forward. War Marshal, your government is calling you back. The consortium is ready to negotiate. Will you help us make peace? Krenthax was silent for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. Yes, I will. You have my word. Over the next 6 months, everything changed. The consortium formally apologized for the quarantine. They invited Earth to join as a full member. The barrier came down. More importantly, the discovery of humanity's history sparked a galactic renaissance. Dozens of species found evidence of their own hidden pasts. The first expansion had left gifts throughout the galaxy. Knowledge, technology, and art hidden in ancient installations. Some species discovered they too had been uplifted by ancient humans. Others found that they were older than anyone thought. The galaxy's history was rewritten, and this time it was complete and honest. A new galactic charter was signed. It guaranteed that no species would be judged by their past. Only their present actions mattered. Power would not be feared if used responsibly, and strength would be measured by protection, not destruction. 6 months after the battle,